Today we are here at Westview Farm, and we're going to be talking about their pig operation. And so I'm with Chris and Rebecca. So if you guys want to just tell me a little bit about your farm and who you are and where folks can find your products.
All right, so Westview Farm started 2011 and then officially became a farm in 2018. We've kind of diversified ourselves into multiple different things, one being the pigs, in which we raise our pigs from time they're piglets all the way through processing. That way everything is done here. Our website, which is westviewfarm.org, and then we are also at the Enfield Farmers Market most Sundays. We try to do mostly direct to customers through stopping here at the farm, direct serving that community.
Okay. But today we're going to be talking about the way that DIY plays into the humane handling of livestock. Can you guys tell me a bit about what humane handling means to you and to your farm?
So humane handling to us is letting pigs do things in their natural environment. We raise them on dirt. The feeder pigs that we raise out for processing are raised in a wooded pasture. So they're on 3 to 4 acres where they just get to roam around being pigs and allowing them to do things on their own accord. When it comes to loading in the trailer, that they've learned that that's where food is for the week ahead of time before loading up into the trailer. So when you feed them and then the door closes, it's not a super stressful environment for them. Same with the moms, working with them on a daily basis so that when it comes time for farrowing, that we're in there and we're an active part of the farrowing process for the assistance if needed and just overall well-being of the piglets to prevent any injuries during farrowing.
Can you walk us through the life cycle of the pigs on your farm? So it's something that's different is that you guys start the pigs here.
So several years ago we realized that buying in feeder pigs wasn't something that we wanted to continue doing. One was availability. They become a little bit more popular and a little more difficult to find in the springtime when we were looking, and then the expense factor when we calculated everything out and realized that raising a sow would be about equal to that, and then we can say everything is grown here. So we kept a crossbred sow a few years, and since then we've been continuing with that lineage and breeding to a spot boar. So all the sows here are a spot variety. They have 2 litters a year, most of the sows. Sometimes, depending on how they look, we give them 1 litter off a year. And then we have, so spring, fall, and the spring piglets that we raise out on the wooded pasture, and then until they're at market weight.
Okay. We don't raise any boars on the property. We only keep any of the females. We'll raise out, obviously, the feeder pigs, regardless of gender. So we pretty much keep track of their heat cycles to be able to know when we need to breed them to meet our approximate age that we try to keep our slaughter age around, which for us anywhere from 26 to 28 weeks is usually the go-to.
You asked the question about DIY, do it yourself. A lot of this has been learned just by researching ourselves.
It sounds
so
like it.
Learning how to artificially inseminate the sow was through a lot of reading, one trial and error, and then the next I changed up the technique a little bit. One of which I grew up raising dairy goats, and it would breed as soon as they come into heat. And then with the pigs we learned you have to be a little patient. They come into heat, and then about 12 hours later do the first breeding. So definitely learning trial and error on that. And then same with farrowing. We learned what the moms are most comfortable with, if they're comfortable with us being in there.
So you mentioned artificial insemination. So did you have a mentor, or is there any resources that you used when you were first deciding to do that with your sows?
When first deciding that, I did a lot of reading and watching videos of how to do that. I didn't end up having a mentor. It was something that I said, I'll try, see if it works myself. And then I had 1 or 2 conversations with our vet of, is it as easy as these videos are making it out to be? And the answer is yes.
So one thing that people are always like, I want to raise pigs, I need structures. Did you have these structures on the land when you bought it, or are these things that you built?
So the only structure that was on the land when I got here was the Cloder Farm shed that's over there.
Okay.
Everything else has been built in time.
Okay.
Slow process. The one that's behind us is one of the first ones I built for the pigs, and as you can see, it actually has an addition on the top. It started off as strictly a 4-foot shed run-in with the floor.
Yeah.
I thought that was all that the pigs need, and that's all that they need. But when we're in there assisting with the farrowing, we don't like squatting down in a 4-foot ceiling for the 4 or 5 hours. Our backs got a little old, so we raised the roof a little bit on it. The structure that the 2 other sows are in was built a couple years after that, when we wanted to expand to have an additional sow, and we wanted to give them a bigger space to farrow. So we moved to that. Okay. And then we've added the grain barn for storage of extra grain, and gone from there. Okay. But they've each been built in a slow succession to kind of fit their need.
Yeah.
It's also interesting. All the barns are very much DIY. We'll piecemeal different pieces together to make it the most comfortable for them. We have to figure out how they're going to get comfortable to have their litter. So that then we can build up the bars, so that then we can reduce potential rollovers.
And Rebecca asked about that bar, or mentioned that bar. All it is a 2x6 that is a corner of it. Okay. And we put the heat lamp on the other side. So piglets' natural tendency is to go to the heat. The mom can't then roll over by accident into that squared off section, and the piglets pig pile into that heat lamp and are safe for when mom does get up and move.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the structure, like the materials? Did you get them at a hardware store, or they found materials?
So it's a little bit of a combination. Some of it is recycled from other projects, or lumber that I had laying around from something I had taken down. A lot of it was bought new from either the local lumber yard or one of the bigger box stores, depending on which project. It's pretty simple construction. I like the pole barn design for a lot of the structures. The bigger sow barn and the cow barn are just simple 4x4 construction and pole barn. So it does have a platform base instead of a more hard-packed stone base that the other one does, which has had its ups and downs. It's a great dry spot for them, but pigs like to root, and if anything smells really good underneath there, they take that plywood right up on me, and I have to replace it.
I would have thought of that. That makes sense.
So that's probably one downside of this one here. You can see in it there's a square box. That was the feeder that we used for some of the pigs before we actually bought a true pig feeder. Okay. The design is a gravity feeder, so that both Rebecca and I have full-time jobs. So sometimes on busy weeks we can't do that very regimented feed schedule. So we opted with the free choice feed method, and that fit a couple 100 pounds, and a small slit allowed it to very slowly come out of that bottom of that, and the trough on it, so it didn't come down. The roofing is just a tin roof, so that keeps the rain out. So the cost varies on the complexity. This one behind us was the first and most simple one we built, and at the time probably about $500, and that was mainly the plywood and the roofing. Our other sow barn is a little bit more expensive at probably about $5,000, and that was because it was made with 6x6s and a much more sturdy and larger barn for that space at the time. And then we had one previous that we had that was actually made from pallets, very similar to that, with pallet walls and plywood roof, and that one obviously much less expensive, but didn't last quite as long. The pallets started to rot, and the pigs destroyed those a little bit quicker than the others, so that's no longer here.
Can you tell me a little bit about your watering system? It's pretty unique, and I'm wondering how you came up with that idea.
So the basis between the watering system is that it's always full, and that they can have free choice to it. Pigs like to root, and pigs also like the muddy spaces. So if I were to put a bucket of water in there, it would last about 5 minutes. They'd flip it over, make mud, and then if we went off to work, they wouldn't have water for the day. So what I did, I have a couple different ways I've made it work. One being the 55-gallon drums, where I've drilled a hole out of it and put the threaded nipple through it. What you can't see on that is there's actually another piece behind it that threads in, so that it's held, because the pigs pigs will actually bite it and pull it out if it's just threaded into the 55-gallon bucket. But that piece of PVC threaded that fits that 3/4 inch thread fits perfectly. And then I use an epoxy or a type of epoxy, and I just lubricate around it so that it doesn't leak. So the other method that is even easier to do is a commercially available trough. Costs a little bit more for the trough itself, and they come from anywhere from 50 to several hundred gallons. But each of them has a drain plug in it, and if there's ones that have that 3/4 inch drain plug already threaded, and all we do is take that nipple and thread it straight into the drain plug by removing the insert, and it's ready to go. And what I like about that is I can actually use that for both. So this week it's up here for extra pigs that I have in a pen, but next week it's down in a pasture for the cows. I don't even have to remove that part because it holds the water just the same. And then if I need it again, it's available.
I like that. Did you find that idea online, or is that something you kind of came up with?
That one I found out by accident because these 55-gallon drums sometimes start leaking, and sometimes they break the PVC on the inside. And they had broken both of them in that same week, and I hadn't had time to fix it. And then I happened to see the drain plug. I said, I wonder if I can find an adapter that'll fit through that, and it just so happened I didn't even need an adapter. So that was purely by accident, and now it's one of my go-tos. So the individual nipples are about $5 to $8 at a feed supply store, and then it depends on the size. Most of ours are 100 gallons, and I think they're right about that $90 to $100 for the trough itself. And then we have larger ones that we don't use for the pigs.
How has DIY played a role in your experience as farmers? Are there any things you wish you'd learned before you started doing this, like carpentry skills you wish you'd gotten, or electric or whatever?
So do it yourself has definitely played a huge part in mainly cost savings. The labor cost, especially of having somebody come out and do it for you versus being able to figure it out. And like Rebecca said earlier, the pigs, as long as they're in a dry space, they don't care what it looks like. So if things aren't perfectly square or perfectly level, they're not going to be judging. Whereas having to pay somebody to come out and make it that is, it looks great, but as you can see, the pigs rub up against it. They make things unsquare anyway. When it comes to carpentry skills, I was lucky. I had some base knowledge. Certainly has improved with each structure that I built and each time I work on a project. And electrical is finding a friend or family member that's willing to help out, and that's been huge for me.
I think also the biggest thing is that we're fairly lucky that we both grew up in agriculture in some way. I went to an agri-science high school myself. I did 4-H. He grew up with dairy farming, goat farming, was in 4-H. I'm an ag teacher, so the amount that we're surrounded by agriculture just in our day-to-day outside of the farm is quite huge.